Good afternoon, or should I say good evening. Today is May the 2nd, 2024. We want to welcome you to our work session. We will now begin our work session for today, and we will yield to Mr. Wallet.
Okay, agenda item number 2, discussion of school reconfiguration plan, reconfiguration presentation. Okay, what we have is, Tom, can you move the? What is being shown to the viewing public and to the board and everybody that's in attendance today? It's the same presentation that the board had. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to give data as far as the district is concerned, based on where we are in certain areas with our building, with what it is that we're spending on our buildings, what it is that we have as far as our budget is concerned, and those budget concerns that we may have in the future. Okay, this is our agenda. School reconfiguration, the beginning, meaning that what it is that brought about as far as the reconfiguration conversation or talk, GLCSD data, and discussion. Okay, the genesis. Consolidation of the Greenwood Municipal School District and LaFleur County School District, which was in 2019. You know, of course, we all know that that was a state legislative act. 2019 began the board issue preparation to build a new high school for the newly formed GLCSD. 2019 again, reconfiguration of the schools under the high schools. There were discussions with the board and the former administration on what would be schools from the middle school area all the way down to our elementaries look in comparison to the one high school that were being built. And I think that the conversation had to do with the buildings that we have, the state of the buildings that we have, and also the number of students that we have. So there was a conversation given that the schools under the high schools could be reconfigured to where we would have light grade levels in the same schools because those schools could hold those number of students. 1922, there was no progress on the configuration of the schools. 1922, the bond issue work did not result in being placed on the ballot. 22-23, school board charged new superintendent to create a school reconfiguration plan as part of its efforts towards a bond issue. In 22-23, there were two different draft versions of the school reconfiguration plan that was submitted to the board for its review. 23, in April of 2023, a draft version of the school reconfiguration plan was approved by the school board. February 2024, the draft version that was approved in 23 was resubmitted as a final version, and it was tabled by the school board. And what it was is that, you know, which I totally agreed with, that it was important to communicate with the constituents as to what it would be that will be going on, that we need to have conversations with them, give them input, and to be able to get them to be on board with what it is that we're doing and at the least be knowledgeable as to what it is that we're doing or need to have to do. Spring of 24, there was a communication plan that was built around the information to be given to the community. Also, at a subsequent board meeting, the communication plan was not approved, or parts of the communication plan was not approved. So at the April board meeting, school board asked that a work session date is finalized to collaborate on school reconfiguration, which we agreed on today. All right, we're going to begin as far as our data is concerned. And most of the data that you will see is going to be longitudinal data. In 1819, the Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District had 4,858 students, okay, which is almost 5,000. 23-24, we only have 3,900 students. Actually, I think it's 3,871, okay? In those 5 years, we've lost 958 kids, okay? The amount paid per student in the 23-24 school term is $7,265.21. That's what we get from the state. Now, based on this number, and well, actually based on this number, this is the amount of money that GLCSD has lost due to the number of students that we have lost as far as our enrollment is concerned, which is quite a bit, okay? At $7 million. Our average daily attendance, the state average is, as far as 23 point, that should be actually our chronic absenteeism rate, okay? The state is 23.87, GLCSD is 27%, which in 22-23, we were at 34%, so we're getting better. You know, with our students coming to school, we're getting closer to the state average. Now, as far as the chronic absenteeism, this is the lowest rate that a district has in the state of Mississippi. I want to say that this is Union School District that has 10.78%. Information for GLCSD, 3,900 students. We have 3 high schools, 3 middle schools, 7 elementary schools, 1 alternative school, and 1 vocational school, okay? School capacity versus actual capacity when we're talking about the schools that we have, right? So with that being said, our 3 high schools, the capacity of these high schools is 2,915 students. That means that we could, in the 3 high schools that we have, we could have close to 3,000 students. What we have is 1,372. Our growth capacity is 1,543 students. Our 3 middle schools, the capacity to hold 1,140 students. Our total capacity is 593. Our growth capacity is 636. Now, the reason why that I have this information up there is that you have to understand that we have the ability to hold 1,140 students in our 3 middle schools. There are a lot of rooms in those schools that we have, that we're heating and that we're cooling, that sometimes have lights on that are not even being used. So, so with that being said, this is the reasoning for the conversation that we're going to have following this presentation. 7 elementary school. Capacity of our 7 elementary school is 4,415. What we have is 2,108. This is the growth capacity. And this is what it is that we have for the district. And this is the growth capacity as far as the students are concerned. Now, our utility costs for each one of the buildings that we have, and this is just for 1 year, okay? At Davis Elementary School, we have, for the 22-23 school year, we spent $914,519.61 on gas, water, electricity, and garbage removal, trash removal. And these are the numbers that we have for each one of the schools in the school district. So, of course, you can see that all of them without school, of course, we know that that's a smaller school, and the vocational school, we're talking about a smaller building as well. But you're still seeing that of the 12 buildings that we're using, that we're in the 6 digits when we're talking about the utilities that we're using and that we're having to pay for in these districts. And the total that we're having as far as the 22-23 school year is our total that we spent on utilities is $7,433,139.65. Now, keeping in mind of the numbers that we're talking about, now we first talked about the amount of money that we've lost since we've lost students. That was almost $7 million. So here's what we're paying for utilities for the 7 buildings. As you notice, I don't have the central office on it. I don't have any of the other buildings that we're using, our bus shop or anything. These are just the schools that we have that we're spending, that we're having this type of expenditures. Maintenance costs for each building. LeFleur County Junior High, high school, this is what it is that, and actually this is the entire complex. The elementary school is included as well. So these are the maintenance costs that we've had during that particular time period, which is $704,706.88. And this is for 1 year. Keep in mind, this is for 1 school term. Athletics and activities in the GLCSD. And, it's kind of easy to compartmentalize things during seasons, but when you look at it holistically, you'll be able to see that in a school district of 3,871 kids, we have 49 activities and teams. We have 12 basketball teams, 6 cheerleading squads, 6 football teams, 3 volleyball teams, and so on and so forth, which equals to 49 activities and teams. Now, in the configuration of our school district that we have now, our kids deserve all of that. They deserve to have that, okay? But a reconfiguration wouldn't take any of these opportunities away. It's just that you have to understand that, and once we go to the next slide, you'll be able to see what that's costing us, okay? In salaries alone is $500,000 when we're talking about the activities that we have. Benefits, referees, all of those things, and this is what it is that we're spending as far as our athletics is concerned in 1 year, $1,077,142.93, okay? This is some information that we have. We have a budget each year, and we work to try to stay within the lines of those budgets. But as you can see, in FY20, the expenses exceeded the revenues by $2 million, 22 by 4.5, 23 by $5.7 million. Meaning that, with that being said, with all of that it is that we have to do and that we're going to do when it comes down to our kids, our expenses are exceeding our revenues in what it is that we're doing. Okay? Now, these are ESSER funds. This is the funds that the state of Mississippi and the United States gave to school districts through their educational agency. And this is the amount that we have spent on infrastructure in the 12 schools that we have so far. Okay? As you can see, Greenwood High School, it was in descending order. The most that we spend is at Greenwood High School and all the way down, but all of it is well over $1 million when you're talking about the amount that we spent. And what we spent these on is refurbishing our restrooms, HVAC, removal of carpet, and windows, and so on and so forth. Okay? Now, the ESSER funds, we have some ESSER funded projects that after September of 2024 will revert back to district in some kind of way. It'll either revert back to district funds or it'll revert back to federal funds, which are still our funds. Okay, so we have been, for the past 3 years, we have been using ESSER funds for kindergarten teachers. This year, we use it for third grade ELA and math teachers, which is at $1.5 million, textbooks and instructional program, which is $3.65 million that we use ESSER funds for. But after September 2024, that amount reverts back to either the district or federal funds. Kindergarten teachers can be federal funds, but for sure, third grade ELA and math teachers go right back to district. Okay? Goes right back to district. So with that $1.5 million, you can add that to the amount that we're exceeding as far as the budget is concerned. So that's another amount that we will have. Now, as far as our discussion is concerned, the factors needing to be considered if a closure and or reconfiguration is approved for the upcoming school term. Time to implement any version of school reconfiguration for this particular school year. We have May, June, and July, and that would be a large undertaking. Communicating any board-approved plan to GLCSD stakeholders. That is a vitally important part, is that if anything is decided between now and whatever time, there needs to be time set aside to be able to communicate that to our stakeholders in some type of way. You know, as many times as need be, or as many ways as we need to get the information out. And then potential future school reconfigurations. If there's a decision on a reconfiguration for 24-25, this needs to be included in the thought process, because we wouldn't want to close a school, put our babies in certain schools, and that's not where they're going to be, you know, that we come back the next year and then they may move again. So you're looking at making decisions based on this as well. So that concludes my presentation, and now we're in the discussion phase of what it is that we have.
Mr. Wallington, we want to thank you and your administrative team for putting together this report for discussion. We do have a lot of working variables here that we need to discuss as a board and with you, Mr. Wallington, and your team. There are some numbers here that we looked at, and we have talked about most of the information presented here, but you have provided us with a very detailed report of what needs to happen. At this time, we will take any and all comments, concerns, discussions from the table. And the first will come from Ms. Lewis.
Again, Mr. Washington, thank you for all of this information. Board members, we have two important projects ahead of us. We have the reconfiguration and we have the bond issue. It's my opinion, and my opinion only, that we need to focus on this reconfiguration. When we look at this growth capacity, and as Mr. Washington stated, there are classrooms in schools that are not being used. We need to go back and look at that and see where we can put additional students if the buildings are in satisfactory condition. I think this reconfiguration plan in itself is enough to keep us busy and focused. And maybe the bond issue might just have to be put on the back burner. That's my opinion. Because these are two major projects, and it's gonna take a lot of time, a lot of dedicated meetings, and I would like to say we need to utilize what we have, show the public that we do know how to be responsible with their funds before we go out and ask them to approve a bond issue.
Are there any more comments?
Madam President, I feel very similar to what Mrs. Lewis has said, and after seeing these figures, and again, thank you, Mr. Waterton, excellent information. If I'm Jane taxpayer, I'm gonna wanna see some work on putting some things together that we could consolidate some classrooms, places, get the bottom line of the money for the district where it needs to be before I would ever consider voting for a bond issue to put out a whole bunch of money on something that we're not utilizing the facilities we have. It seems to me that we could take some facilities and put just a fraction of what we would ask in a bond issue to update the building, renovate buildings, to make them first class for our students, which our students and our community deserve. But I think we need to be realistic, and I think we'd be hard pressed to start something to be in place by August.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Thank you, Ms. Abraham. Any more comments?
I have just a brief statement. When we talk about putting money and renovation into school buildings that we already have, I think that's one idea. But when we look at what's happening in Threadgill, we put over $18 million in Threadgill, over that. And Threadgill is still not satisfactory at this point. So I'm saying if we got buildings that is deplorable to that phase, then I don't know about putting money into those buildings. Sometimes we talk about building a new school, dancing to the tune of $50 million. Well, we put 18 in Threadgill. That's 1/3 of it there. Over 1/3 of it. So I'm just of the opinion that we need to, yes, first deal with what we got, because we know that you can't snap your finger and a school is built overnight. We know that. But now, if the schools are in this fashion now, then what are they going to be maybe 3 years down the road, the time it takes to build a school? How much more money are we going to pump into the buildings that we got? I don't know whether you all had the opportunity to look at those buildings, but I mean, Bankston, the ceiling is falling in. Somebody's gonna get hurt. You know, and do we want that? We take a look at several more of our buildings. LaFleur Junior High. I mean, that building, is it worth putting the money into it? That's the $64 million question. And that's what we are study doing. We are study pumping money into buildings that we can't bring up to standard.
Any more comments?
Yes.
Okay, wait. Help her with that microphone. Miss Hilliard. Okay. All right, just pull it too. Thank you.
Thank you again for the report.
Okay.
And I'm of the opinion also that it's time out for keep patching and patching and patching. Our children deserve something better than us to keep putting plaster on stuff and it keeps falling off. It's time for us to do something better for our children. We talk about we're stakeholders. We are. But I don't want to see a child go into a building that we have pumped money into and ceiling is falling, air conditioning might work today, not tomorrow. Again, we have patched some of these buildings. Some of them cannot be patched any further. We need to shut them down, get to the business of making sure that our children are in safe schools, in a safe environment, and a learning situation so that they can be proud of their schools. But I am sick of these patches on these schools. Now that's my opinion.
Mr. Walton, I just want, if we, colleagues, if we can refer to page 10, please. Page 10. I'm looking at the 22-23 utility costs, and mind you, this is for 22-23. I'm not really for certain if the cost stayed around the same amount or if the cost went up or down any. I'm not really for sure what it looks like for 23-24. But I'm looking at, and my mind is still set on a bond issue. And if we are talking about, I guess, blending, preparing to blend students to move forward with the bond issue, I think the blending, and I'm just looking at the middle school areas. So I'm looking at number 5, Greenwood Middle. I'm looking at number 8, and this is page 10. Number 8, Amanda Elsie Junior High, and number 9, LaFleur County Junior High. The blending of the middle school areas, I think that would be would be a reasonable action. If we are preparing to move forward with the bond issue. We know schools have to be closed. Let's look at how we can blend the easier levels. And in my mind, to me, the easier levels would be the middle school and the junior high school areas. So I'm looking at the middle school costs, utility costs, plus I've kind of glanced at the growth capacity based on the utility cost, and not to mention the maintenance cost for the junior high schools and the middle school. So let's tally up the costs quickly in our minds, just eyeballing the maintenance costs for the junior high and high schools and the middle school, and the utility cost for the junior high schools, middle school, those two costs, and then looking at the growth capacities. You only have 3 middle schools versus 7 elementaries. The growth capacity, so total, 3 middle schools capacity, 1,140 students. Actual capacity, so I don't know where this capacity could go. So it says actual 2,024 at a capacity, and then 593 students. Growth capacity 636. So we look at the amount of students that we had in the middle schools and then say, okay, what is that versus the actual capacity, the limitation, or the limits rather, for growth capacity, and combining rather those three, and keeping the vision in my mind for a prospective bond being passed. What do you think about that, Mr. Walton?
Yes, ma'am. We're talking about as far as the middle schools are
Yes, sir.
concerned, we do not have a middle school that would be able to hold all of our middle school students. If
Okay.
it's 7th and 8th grade, we do not have a building that is large enough to be able to hold them all.
Okay.
You know, they all have capacity limitations as buildings, and the capacity and the number of the growth capacity that you're seeing on the report is a growth capacity of the combined number of you know, it's all three schools. It would be growth capacity of that combined number, and it could be to the point of, like, we have the growth capacity is 636 kids of our students. You know, it could be that Greenwood Middle School, of that 633, could hold maybe 200 more. Amanda Elsa Junior High could hold 175 more, and then the middle school or junior high at the floor could hold X number that equal this 636. But to be able to put 563 students in one of our buildings, we don't have a middle school that is large enough to be able to do that.
Okay.
What's the number of middle school kids we have right now at the middle school at Greenwood Middle?
I don't have that information. All of this is combined information, so I don't have that. I do know that an approximation, we have probably 200, I would say 282 at Greenwood Middle School. Mm-hmm. And I think that Greenwood Middle School could hold maybe 440 or something. I'm just kind of trying to remember all of the numbers that I have, but it is not big enough, it's not large enough to hold 593 kids.
So we have 592 kids right now?
593 kids in all of our combined middle schools. Middle school / junior high school. Because remember, at Amanda Elsie, the junior high school is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. At Greenwood Middle, it's just 7th and 8th grade. And at the floor, it's just 7th and 8th grade. The 6th grade is at the elementary school in, you know, at the floor elementary, and our 6th graders are spread out over Davis, Bankston, and Threadgill Elementary School here, you know, those that feed into Greenwood Middle.
And the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at what school?
6th, 7th, and 8th grade, yes, sir, at Amanda Elsa Junior High School.
Elsa Junior High.
Yes, sir.
What about if we take the 6th grade away from the middle school?
At Amanda Elsie?
The
Well,
sixth-
just a middle school period.
Yeah, with the middle school period.
Yeah,
We're
that-
trying to get enough room to see what it looked like in the middle school. And we could combine the middle school. I mean, that was the discussion. I'm just feeding into the discussion.
Yes, sir. Oh, absolutely. You take the 6th grade away from the middle school at Amanda Elsie, you're talking about only approximately 70 students. You know, so you're talking about maybe 70 students, and subtract that from 593, you're still talking about 523 students.
I got a comment.
Okay, Ms. Lewis.
I just want to make another comment. I was listening to some of the fellow board members. You know, just because we build, if we are able to build a high school, does not mean that we will not have to continue with maintenance on some of the other buildings, because we can't close all the schools. So we're still gonna have to ensure that the schools are safe. We have more elementary schools, it would be my suggestion that maybe we look at some elementary schools. And Mr. Waldington, you know better than we do, the condition of all of them, the capacity. And I know everybody loves their neighborhood schools, but we cannot continue to go in the direction that we're going. We have too many of them.
Ms. Wallen, what is your proposal?
When we're talking about school reconfiguration, my thoughts are in line with what it is with all of you all, because everybody is pretty much saying the same thing, that there's something that we're going to need to do when we're talking about, the number of schools that we have under the high schools. My major concern on today, May 2nd, is the ability to do anything such as that for the 24-20, for the next school term. Because we're talking about May, maybe mid-May through July. And, closing a school and getting a school prepared for, a X number of students is a major undertaking. It takes a lot. It takes a lot logistically, and it takes a lot of human capital to be able to do that. Being that, that we're discussing this now and we're coming up on the end of school, you're gonna have a lot of personnel that will not be in the area. They'll be on vacation. We'll have PDs, we're gonna have those kind of things to be able to have these individuals to be here to get that done. I feel that it is a need. I feel that it needs to be something that maybe that during this particular time, this, May, June, and July, that, if anything happens, that a plan of action is approved that will give the administration the opportunity to prepare for that to be in place for the 25-26 school term, or even if we're real ambitious about it, that parts of it could be in place beginning in January of 25. If we're real ambitious about getting certain things, done depending on what the plan looks like. So, so that would be my suggestion. And also when we're talking about, the number of schools, of course, some of the buildings and the schools that we're going to use these schools. We're going to have these schools for the next 25, 30 years, probably until as far as the existence of the district. But with the reconfiguration and having to lower the overhead because some schools have been closed, we can use funds that would have been spent on another school that's not closed to upgrade the schools that we will use. Just case in point, and again, I will not call a school's name, but the thing about it is that, one of the schools that we have that are that is in better shape than most that we have, it needs a roof. And at this particular time, we're working with MDE, and we found out yesterday that we received a loan from MDE as far as that roof is concerned, at almost a little over $900,000. So with that being done, once that happens for that school is set, other than minor things that needs to happen, but that school is set. That elementary school is set. So for us to be able to use that, but just as you said, Coach, we do have some schools that will need a whole lot more than what it is that we probably would want to put into to be able to do. We could do it, but the thing is that, at what cost? Because you once you get, once you plug this hole, usually the pressure from that hole goes to somewhere else, and you're gonna pop out somewhere else, and we have some buildings that's like that. We have some buildings that's gonna always cost us quite a bit of money, and if there's going to be a change, then those are the ones that need to be considered, that, hey, here's what we have, here's what we need to do, here's what we can do, and move on from there. So that would be my recommendation, when we're talking about, as far as reconfiguration is concerned.
In my area, the people that I talk to in my area, I think they understand, and I've been trying to express to them that if you're looking for something to happen now, it's not gonna happen. I do understand that it's going to take probably this year with real down to earth planning, with real straight talk, in order to get things ready for the next school term, not the upcoming 24, 25 school term. And like you said, you got to be real ambitious to be ready in January. I doubt very seriously if you can get there, because you're talking about the livelihood of all of those teachers, janitors, custodians, bus drivers. I mean, it's a lot of working parts in this thing. But I think we need to be serious about starting right now in letting people, grooming people, to let them know that this is basically what we are trying to do. And maybe in a school period, a school year, we can have these things done. That's my think about it. If I don't know what schools they will be, because I was looking at the middle schools and I thought maybe Greenwood Middle School could handle the junior high. But you saying they can't. Okay, so we need to take a look at what do we want to move first. Do we want to look at maybe the elementary school, want to look at the middle school, or do we want to look at the high school? But I think we need to be grooming the neighborhoods that we have constituents in order to let them know that this is what's on the table. And now you got a whole year to kind of peck at it, beat on it, and whoop it into what you want it to be.
In addition to that, Mr. Wallington, I'm just looking at the maintenance cost and the utility cost. Now, the maintenance cost, this is the maintaining of those buildings throughout the year. And I'm still looking at the 2 junior high schools at the top of the list. 1 elementary school, it's in 4th, but it's still, an elementary school which you were going to repurpose. Those maintenance costs coupled with the utility cost for the junior high and high schools, they are pretty they're pretty high. Yeah, so utility costs, I see it, but the maintenance costs on those buildings those numbers are pretty elevated, the maintenance cost. And that's the cost of the junior high schools. It keeps going back to the junior high schools for me.
Is that the junior high school and high school?
No.
Oh,
Oh yeah. That's correct. Because but now remember now, LaFleur, it's at that one building. Yes. Yes. And then you have Amanda Elsie, junior high. But in this case, it would be the junior high piece of that. And then I'm looking at the utility cost. Now, that was just the maintenance cost. I'm looking at the utility cost now for Amanda Elsie in LaFleur County Junior High. Well, LaFleur County Junior High School, because the amount of money that we pay per month for that particular school in maintenance and utility And for the number of students combined, I have a number of 313. So we have 313 students. That student population and LaFleur County Junior High School equates to a 400,000 plus utility cost, and this is just LaFleur, and $189,000 maintenance cost, and you're housing 313. It is. And so if we collect the data, say, okay, so if we have this minimal amount of student population, are we going to keep paying this amount, this increased of this elevated amount for a student populace of 313 total junior high and high school? I'll give you another one. East Elementary School. What's the capacity at East Elementary School if we're going to repurpose Claudine Brown? That was a part of the plan to repurpose Claudine Brown. East Elementary School has a total of 231. Even though the maintenance cost is not that much, you're still paying $712,563.41 for 231 students.
Yes, ma'am.
So have we thought about those increased or elevated costs where our student populace is quite lower? Have we thought about that combined?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. There have been, a lot of possibilities in discussion as to what a reconfiguration would look like, not only in the savings of money, but also in how it would give us a better opportunity to educate our children, and trying to put, the like number of the developmental age students, together, and to give the teachers and the administration an opportunity to concentrate on that particular group of students, because there's a different level of education or a different level of accountability for different levels of students. Like pre-K through second grade is almost completely different than when you have a third through fifth grade. So we were looking in terms of if a reconfiguration plan is put together, that if there's a possibility of putting our pre-K through second grade students together, okay, in a building where it would hold it, to be able to have an opportunity to groom that staff, to groom that administration, to be proficient in educating those students, to get them prepared for the third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, and then on and on. Also, what have been taken into consideration is the distance for those young children, if that was the case. So we have such a distance between some of our schools, like the schools in Itta Bena, and compared to maybe trying to get pre-K students to come to a school in, in our Greenwood, municipal area, it would be up to a point of where that, in my thought process and the discussions that we've had, that there would be an elementary school in Itta Bena, simply because of the fact that you do not want to bus those young kids and make them have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be able to get to school. So, there's some things that we would have to concede for the betterment of the children, but any plan that we came up with would give us a better opportunity for a better education and a better building that our children can go into if we, if we did have a plan, so.
Question, Ms. Lewis, and then Ms. Abraham.
Mr. Waddington, what is the capacity of Threadgill Elementary?
1,500,
Could we not flip-flop?
what do you mean, ma'am?
If Threadgill Elementary could hold 1,500, could that, and I'm just asking, could that not be a possibility for a middle school?
There's a lot of variables involved in that particular. Yes, ma'am. To answer your question, there's a possibility, but there's a lot of variables with that. You know, when you're talking about and I don't think it may not have anything to do with the age, but for the lack of a better term, the work that needs to be done to that school. We are almost positive that the pipes in that school is going to eventually have to be changed out. The ones that's under the school, because you all gave us permission to fix a leak there. You gave us about $25,000 to be able to fix that leak. And so they did go under the school and they fixed that leak. And so with that being said, we have another leak, okay? And that's when we were talking about, Coach Fan, about plugging this hole and the pressure comes and it's going to do. So we have, those kind of things. I'm not talking against that as far as Threadgill. I'm just giving you the data, on the schools, just as to what it is that we have as far as that's concerned. But it is the largest school, as far as elementary school, as far as capacity is, when you're talking about capacity. Also, it needs roof work. It needs probably, of any of the schools in the district, it probably needs more roof work than any of the rest, them and that school and maybe Greenwood High. Greenwood High a little bit less, but, it's a lot of work that needs to be done as far as that school is concerned.
So my question would be, are we gonna continue to house the students who are there now? Will they stay there? Because my thought process, if they're gonna stay there, those issues are gonna have to be taken care of anyway.
Yeah, we're going to have to make this school, we're going to have to continue to make the school to where it is an adequate educational environment for the students that go there. I would love to be able to, to make it into, a school that is that's more than adequate. But right now, we don't have the funding for that, given that we have other schools that we have to make sure that we're doing those things for. So, at this particular moment, we can have the school can be to the point of where it is adequate for those students to be there. But, in the grand scheme of things, you're going to have to take a real hard look at that particular school as well as the rest of them, but a real hard look at that particular school as to what we want to do with it, okay? And how we want to, how do we want to put funds into that particular situation. I know that we, at one point this year, we had to take the 4th and 5th graders and put them in Davis Elementary School. And the thing is that, again, this is just the data. This is not Mr. Wallington's opinion. Those students, there was not a day of trouble with those students at Davis Elementary School. And Ms. Bush, which I want to thank her and Mr. Travis Johnson at Threadgill for the work that they did. But, she was able to absorb that 100, I think it was maybe like close to 150 kids, without an issue. There was no issue at all. And the reason why we did it, because they were working on those hallways as far as the air conditioning is concerned. So we wanted to make sure, that they were brought back after that was done. So,
What's our capacity? What is the capacity of Davis?
600.
Between the two of those buildings?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
600 students. That I can remember because that was a nice round number.
Okay.
We talk about taking care of taxpayers' money. But right now, we look I don't know what adjective I could use to describe us right now, but we pumped $18 million in Threadgill. And Threadgill gonna take from what you're saying and what I've observed, it's gonna take another 10 to $15 million to get Threadgill up to the level of expectation that you would want for the students of LaFleur County. And that's not, that might not be all of it, because when you look at those old pipes, and like you were saying, you plug one hole here, pressure gonna cause another one over there. I mean, and we sit here and we listen at a man come in and tell you that, well, if you all don't go and put this number of dollars into it, then the panel box won't work. That was just ludicrous. I'm just saying. I've checked with contractor after contractor. The first thing that they say, that in an old school like that, they can just about walk in that school and look at the plaque on the wall when the school was built. They could just about tell you. They could tell you whether your junction box or the wiring is compatible with the electronics that we have in the buildings today. But we sit right here and we let them put us over a barrel and saying that if we don't do this, the rest of it won't work. And I think, well, I'm the only somebody, I know I might sound like I'm just beating or knocking or whatever you want to call it, but I mean, that was just, it was wasting taxpayers' money. I put it like that. And I'm supposed to be putting a roof on Threadgill. Threadgill is leaking. And I made that statement. That Threadgill, are you through with the roof? Yeah, we're about through. It's leaking. So how you through with it and it's leaking? So I mean, what are we gonna do? How long are we gonna sit here and waste taxpayers' money? And yet, when we talk about little bitty things, then people among us will say, well, we got to be careful about taxpayers' money. I mean, I'm careful. You done muddied up the place now. So what are we gonna do? Do we have a building in the county that can hold all of the junior high school students?
We have buildings that could, again, you know, if we're including Threadgill, of course, that would be the case. You know, in any kind of reconfiguration, you know, our two, but that would not be that would not be a feasible situation. No, not without making a drastic situation as far as that's concerned. You know, that would include maybe a high school, you know, as far as that's concerned. Because the high schools are the biggest buildings that we have. And from my understanding and my research, Threadgill Elementary School used to be a high school. And that's the reason why that it's the size that it is, you know. So with that being said, you know, we don't have the capacity to be able to do that. Now, when we're talking about, like I, you know, stated to you all that Davis Elementary School holds 600, you know, we'd be able to hold 600, you know, but we're talking about 593. We're just talking about children. You know, when we're talking about 600, we're talking about 600, you know, that's the capacity that the building has with the staff and the student, okay? So, you know, that's what it is that we look at as an administration to be able to say, you know, that, you know, based on what the fire marshal says is that we can only have 600 people, you know, in this building. So, so with that being said, with the 593 middle school students that we have, or junior high students that we have, it would take a building actually maybe with the capacity of 700 people to be able to house that. So, and that's why I'm saying that now you will be having to be looking at, you know, like a complex, you know, as far as that's concerned, you know, like, and begin discussing those large areas that we have with our high school students that are there. But So we're looking in terms of that. Now, there is, because of the fact that, we've been discussing this, and when the board discuss it, Mr. Waldington always takes a lot of time during the month between board meetings, to look at things based on what it is that's been discussed. So, there is a, there is a way, that things can be done, but it may not be to the point of where all of our middle school students, meaning including those from Itta Bena and those from that go to our Elsie junior high and those that go to our middle school, as far as Greenwood Middle School is concerned, that all of them are together. But, it would be to the point of where it will put us in a position to where we'll be able to, to sustain and maintain and upgrade the buildings that we already have in that particular way. So, there's always a way. It may not be to where we can put all of them in one building, because we don't have a building like that. But, we can be able to have them to where there are, in a building, as Ms. Higgins said, that they could be proud of, and that we have an opportunity to be able to give them the best education possible. So,
Quick question. What's the capacity of LaFleur Elementary School?
I want to say it's approximately 500. I would say, to be safe, I would say like 525. I don't know exactly the number.
How many elementary students do we have over there?
304.
Right.
304. All right. How many middle school students do we have over there?
At the high school,
It's not broken out on this.
it's
list
not.
that
Yeah,
you
it's
put-
not
that you
broken
passed
down.
on. No,
But
it's not.
it would be. It's less than 120, easily less
We-
than,
could
and
we
maybe
make-
less than 100.
Could we make that elementary school from K through 8?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that would solve a problem with the middle school, and then combine Elsa Middle School and Greenwood Middle School?
We're just speaking 7th and 8th grade, right?
Just 7th and 8th grade.
That could work. That could work.
Let me just say this. I know Miss Abraham had a statement a few minutes ago.
I'm fine.
Okay,
Let me
just
ask you-
establishing protocol. Okay, Miss Lewis.
What's the capacity of Thread Gill Primary?
The
I wanna
number of
say-
students or the capacity of the
Capacity.
building?
How many can
Okay.
you hold?
It's 400. I want to say 400, between 400 and 450.
Okay, and you said we had how many, middle schoolers?
And as far as our middle schoolers, 593.
Okay. Could somebody be combined with Thread Gill Primary? Not necessarily, I'm not speaking in terms of the middle school.
Meaning
How many is there now? How many students over there now?
212.
Okay, so you have,
The capacity for probably, I would say maybe 125 more students, because you got to say that, you're going to bring, 25 to 30 employees there.
could that accommodate some schools?
It depends on what it is, what grade levels that you're looking at to put there. If it's pre-K through, it's pre-K through 1 now, okay? Our best case scenario academically would be that if we had pre-K through it would be pre-K through 2 that we would have. That would be our best case scenario. I think that from my research and from having conversation is that Threadgill Primary was pre-K through 2nd grade at one time, and then the 2nd grade was brought to Threadgill Elementary School for some reason. Okay, I don't know if it had to do with the shape of the area where those 2nd graders were, but with that being said, I know that I've had conversations, with administration and actually, the principal there, and thinking in terms of, that if we, let the ones that promote from the 1st grade to the 2nd grade stay at Threadgill Primary School and have a pre-K through 2nd grade, that they would not have enough room for that. So that is the reason why that proposal was never brought to you all, because it would have been if we knew we had enough room to be able to get it done. So we don't have enough room
What's
for
the
that.
enrollment at Claudia and Brown?
I want to say it's close to 300.
259.
259. Yeah. And Claudine Brown is pre-K through 2nd. It's pre-K through 2nd grade. Because 3 and 5, they go to East.
Is East at its capacity?
No, none of them are.
Is that back building being used?
At East,
Uh-huh.
not at its capacity.
Cause I think 7th and 8th grade were over there at one time,
At East,
if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was too. No.
But LV Junior High has
6, 7, and 8.
6, 7, and 8, okay. Are they at capacity? No, you said none of them are.
None of them are. No, ma'am.
At one time, W.C. Williams was the 6th grade, so they had all of those students over there.
Who, your secret?
Well, it's Threadgill Primary.
Oh, okay, yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
it used to be W.C.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the utility cost for Amanda Elsie Junior High School. Well, junior high school. That utility cost $703,000 plus. And you have at the junior high side 212 students. No, I apologize. 223 junior high school students. And I'm just looking at costs versus the number of students that are actually enrolled in attending school in that particular facility.
Yes, ma'am.
So in order for us to make up funds lost based on student loss, which is right at 7 million, then you have a total of 7 million of utility cost. In my mind, I think, we could figure out, look at capacity levels, regrading configurations for schools, in order to close schools, at least, 3, that will bring us back to the amount of funds lost based on student loss. And then I don't know, you know, what the comparability that would be into that would cut into the athletic activities cost. Because if you've got 3 middle schools as opposed to 1 middle school,
Absolutely, because you reduce the number of because in our middle schools we only have boys and girls basketball and football, so you will reduce the number of teams by 2 for each one of those. So you would have, instead of 3 girls basketball teams, you will have 1. Instead of 3 boys, you have 1, and 3 football teams, you know, you'll have 1. And if the reconfiguration of the middle schools is to get them prepared on down the line to be in a high school together, the best way for them to get to know each other is that if they play together and they compete with each other, compete with other teams together, that would be the best way of them getting to to know each other, to where, you know, that they would have a better opportunity of being cordial to each other in a high school.
and then the repurposing, the prospective repurpose of Claudine Brown. Then you had, if my mind serves me correctly, there was one, I can't recall the last reconfiguration plan, what it was for those vocational areas.
Oh, vocational, that we did not, we didn't discuss that as far as
Okay.
vocation. Now, for Claudine Brown, it was, for the Excel Academy, which is in the maintenance department now, and for our alternative school to be, that's what we would use as far as Claudine Brown School is concerned.
Okay.
For to be able to, to have that type of complex for them. Have his own cafeteria, we won't have to bus food.
Okay.
We won't have to do anything like that, and it will be in an area that's more conducive to, what that would be used for at that particular time. So,
Madam President.
Yes, ma'am,
may I
Miss
say something?
Abraham.
I was just gonna say, you've provided us with the hard numbers here, which is great, the quantitative. It seems to me that, and I think it is paramount, what you were talking about, the factors involved in combining different grades and how that is done to boost academic performance, but also to ensure that you're not mixing grades that don't need to be together. That you, superintendent, and your administration and staff would be better prepared to look at all the factors together, not just the money factors, and come up with, and a lot of it could be what your other plan was. I'm not sure, but look at this and say, okay, to the board, these are what we have as our best shot at doing the reconfiguration. And if we do this, it's gonna save this in maintenance and utilities and personnel and all that kind of stuff. Because we could stay here for the month of May as a board. You know the people, you know the buildings, you know the academics, and you know what needs to be done. And I'm just proposing that you've given us this for us to go and look at. But to come up with your best shot as the district of what the board needs to see before a decision could be made, and include, the stakeholders. But we gotta start out with a plan. And like I said, I don't know how much of this, I don't remember how much varies from what your plan was. I mean, you might wanna speak to that, I don't know. I'm just saying, for the best shot to take a comprehensive reconfiguration, let's let the people who know the schools do it.
Our in discussion with the administration and academia part of it, we all agreed that if we're going to have a reconfiguration and that we're going to really kind of get started to where we're going to be the Greenwood LaFleur Consolidated School District, and here's how our school buildings are going to be. We are, we're giddy about having the opportunity to be able to have a pre-K through second grade school, a third through fifth grade school, third through fifth grade school, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade school, and then a high school. Okay, and we will be extremely giddy if we was able to have a ninth grade academy school, and our high school would be 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
That's
Because you
what we
always,
need.
yes sir, you always want to get those ninth graders prepared, because there's a big difference between eighth grade and going into the ninth grade. There's a huge
Absolutely.
difference. So we want to get them prepared for what they will be dealing with in the 10th grade. So as an administration on the curriculum side, that's what it is that we would love to be able to have and to be able to move the district forward. And again, we took into the consideration of, the distance between some of our communities that our schools in Itta Bena serves. So we feel that in the conversation that we've had, we feel that there is going to be an elementary school as far as Itta Bena is concerned, because we don't want to have those children to go all that far, with that, and it could be a K through 6 school. It could be, in speaking as far, it could be a K through 6 school. I think that our 7th and 8th graders, from those particular areas, would do better with the bus ride, than those kids at that particular level. But if that's a discussion to where we don't even want to bring the 7th and 8th graders, as far as that's concerned, then the building that we have with LaFleur Elementary will hold pre-K through 8th grade. Okay? But that would not preclude those 8th graders from being a part of that one basketball, one football, or whatever, because we'll make concessions to get them where they need to be. When it's practice or whatever the case may be, we can make that happen. So that's what our thought process is.
And you've said before, they need to be with each other as
Yes.
students, as athletes,
Yes.
as band members, before
Yes.
they ever try to get into a new high school and say, okay, this is the new school, which makes sense. That's just common sense.
Yeah, I think that they would, again, I think that they would, yes, get a better opportunity to learn one another and to be able to get along, and, even to the point of caring for one another. When you are battling another school in athletics, you make lifelong friends like that. You absolutely do. Absolutely do.
And that's what we need, because ultimately, if we want one high school, it's gonna have to be that they are truly consolidated.
Yes.
So I'm just throwing out, we've gone over a lot tonight, which I think is very important, but let superintendent and his team come up with the best proposal that takes in all the factors, including the money factor, and come back.
Are there any more comments, questions, concerns regarding the proposed school reconfiguration? Mr. Walton, I want to thank you for providing us with this data. I will review it more. It was important for us to see and know, and to know that as a member of this community, from what I've heard, the people are ready for true consolidation.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have to be consolidated minded, which means we have to me, I think we have to be bond issue minded. And if that's the case, when the taxpayers see that we are actually considering we have to look at the cost. We do have to look at the finances behind this. Utility cost, and then capacity, and then maintenance costs. So those were the largest numbers that I honed in on, which was maintenance cost of each building and utility costs for each building. And then, so yes, we have to be economically minded when you're talking about moving this district and bringing about a prospective bond issue. We have to do that and then make some changes moving toward a prospective bond issue. Being maintenance and utility cost minded as well, which will allow us to help us to be fiscally sound, especially when we've lost the amount of money that we've lost regarding students leaving the district. So we haven't really delve into those reasons, and I don't guess, right now we don't have time to do that, but I just do know that we need to become bond issue minded, because I think the people are ready. And if we can move those high utility costs and maintenance cost schools, if we can meld those together, I think we will be well on our way as a district. Nothing is going to be easy. Nothing is easy anymore. So, to whom much is given, much is required. That's from the top, this table, down. To whom much is given, much is required. So it's not going to be easy to do anything on utilizing this information that we have. But I just want us to, I thank you for this session. Thank you for the information that was provided. Colleagues, do we have any closing remarks?
I do. I have a
Ms.
question.
Lewis.
I think tonight has been a good meeting, but my question is, what are our next steps? I don't want to see us leave here tonight and we not come back together to finish the conversation. So what are our next steps? Can we plan another meeting?
My suggestion was along the lines of Ms. Lewis thinking. I think we need an update every meeting. Every time we get together, we need an update on where we are. You guys got some information. You gave us some information. You need to brainstorm a little bit. Come back and tell us what will fit in certain spots. If we're going to attack the elementary school or attack the middle school and try to get them to jail first, then give us an update on where we are and what we can do. And if we can get that, and I understand about the money part, but we already bleeding money. I'm like a guy at a poker table. We bleeding chips. So we not worried about chips. Let's try to get those kids that we are talking about in a certain spot, then we can talk about how much would it cost to keep us there. And I think a very good idea, like you said, even though LaFleur would be, that junior high would be housed at LaFleur, we'll get them where they need to be in order to make one team. Absolutely. And it's a lot better buying one pair of gym shoes for a kid than a mother buying 3 pair of gym shoes going to start school.
Okay. Ms. Hilliard, any comments?
No, ma'am, I would just like to say that, in closing, our constituents and our children are very, very important to this district.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ms. Abraham? Okay. Mr. Wallington? Any closing remarks?
No, ma'am, other than basically what it is that I'm hearing is and when we say the next board meeting, I'm not sure we're talking about the 7th.
No.
Okay, yes,
No.
sir. And maybe the next work session on the 29th of May. That you all would want something to, when we're talking about reconfiguring schools, you would want to have something that has schools options or schools that are reconfigured to be able to discuss, ask questions or discuss as to, what was the thought process behind that, which I think that we'll all know what the thought process would be, on certain things, and be able to have a discussion about that as far as that May 29th work session is concerned for the next school board meeting. So we will get together as an administration and have that for you all. And looking at the one that we proposed the last time and make some considerable changes, or adjustments to, to that particular situation that we can discuss, and then we'll move, we'll move from there and have transparent conversations about what it is that we have. So yes, sir, we could be able to do that.
Okay.
Yep. Let's just keep in mind, children are the reason that we all are here.
Okay, if there are no more comments, questions, or concerns, this concludes our May 2nd, 2024 work session. Thank you. Please be safe.